Think Tank is pleased to welcome State Assemblywoman Holly Schepisi from Bergen County, represents a whole range of, and Passaic County as well. You've been in the legislature how long?
7 years.
You have often been described as not just an up-and-comer, but someone who is a moderate, who is fiscally conservative, but socially open to a whole range of things. How hard is it for you at times to be a part of the Republican Party where you've said, quote, I don't want to be perceived, I don't want to be a party that is perceived to be a party of angry white men. And you said you got in trouble for that.
I did get a lot of pushback, and both positive as well as negative.
But do you believe that?
I believe we are perceived as that. And that's where we as a party must rebrand ourselves, particularly in New Jersey. In New Jersey, we are probably one of the biggest tents that you could imagine. And yet there's this narrative, this national narrative, that we are solely a party of rich white people. And that is not the case, and particularly not in New Jersey. We are the party of the middle class. We are the party of the small business person. We are the party of LGBTQ, minority, female.
In New Jersey?
In New Jersey.
Is New Jersey, Assemblywoman, is New Jersey out of sync with the National Republican Party, 90% plus of whom the Republicans support President Trump's policies? And let's just say the things he has said about women,
right,
the things he has done and said about immigrants,
right,
and the overall tone that he has, some would argue is not particularly inclusive.
Right, and it's a fair argument to make. However, if you actually look at the number of women within his administration, when you actually sit down and talk about, we've lost the ability to discuss policy.
What do you mean by that?
Everything is soundbite. Everything is, let's go to the furthest extreme on both sides, whether or not it be Republican or Democrat. And almost everybody I know falls onto a bell curve, kind of in the middle.
Well, then how do we get so, sorry for interrupting, how do we get so polarized? Like, if I'm right, you have to be wrong,
right,
and you're a bad person.
Right.
That's not you.
It's not, and it's not the people I know in my party. And in fact, it's so frustrating because the people who I know within the Republican Party in New Jersey in particular are much more open-minded than a lot of people who label themselves as progressives. Progressives are out there shouting from the sky about love and inclusivity and hate has no home here, and then they'll be the first people to tell you how much they hate you because you don't believe 100% of what they believe. People are really clamoring to be able to have honest intellectual discussion and debate and discourse without being labeled as some ridiculous thing just because you and I may not agree on an issue.
Name calling is not public policy making. By the way, you're listening to State Assemblywoman Holly Schepisi. This is Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato. By the way, the thing you just said about having meaningful discussion, that was the whole point of creating Think Tank. That being said, bring it closer to home.
Yes.
New Jersey, you don't like the idea, and again, as we speak in the spring, on April 17th, as we tape 2019, marijuana is not legal in the state. You don't want it to be.
Right.
Because?
I am firmly for medicinal use. I am firmly for decriminalization. We want to talk about social justice. Let's decriminalize. Let's expunge. Let's work.
Expunge records.
Expunge records.
Up to a certain degree.
Up to a certain degree.
Right.
I mean, if you're out there selling hundreds of pounds of something, you've done a bad thing and you need to do your time. But for, if we're talking about real social justice, and if it's not just a money play in the state, which frankly, that's all it is, let's be honest about it. Let's expand out our medicinal program. Let's ensure that people who actually need it for medicinal purposes are getting it. Let's see how it unfolds in some other states. And let's do immediate expungement and immediate decriminalization. Instead, it's all about, depending upon what demographic it's being sold to, it's either social justice or it's money. Well, guess what?
Money into the state.
That money's been spent 20 times over. Nobody's going to see their property taxes go down.
You mentioned property tax, another issue. You have great concerns about this. You've talked about it a lot. What's one thing that would help stabilize, if not reduce, property taxes in the state, the highest in the nation?
We need to redo our entire school funding. We need to figure out a way to, particularly in light of everybody screaming about SALT caps and everything
You mean
else.
state and local deduction taxes, cap at $10,000, state and local deduction, which you agree is a bad thing.
I agree it's a bad thing. However, you know what? Instead of just standing there screaming about how much, we may hate the federal government, this is an opportunity. Bring in every top tax person, CPA, economist, sit down, look at how we currently fund things in the state, and redo it. Let's do a bipartisan thing. Sit down. Why are we funding our schools through property taxes, driving our taxes to be the highest in the nation as a result? Let's figure out a different way. I don't care if we call them user fees. I don't care what we do. Let's revamp everything that we do, take advantage of the tax code, rather than just standing up going, look, there's a squirrel and we hate Trump. It makes no sense.
You think Trump has been the fall guy for a lot of things that are more complicated than that?
Well, before him, it was Christie. And so that's my biggest issue with the state of New Jersey is we don't look at fixing our own problems. We don't take responsibility for our own issues. Instead, we just point fingers at one another and everything continues to get worse.
You've talked about affordable housing. What is the issue, particularly in your district?
Right.
What's the affordable? You have a wealthier district?
I represent a district that's a blend. I have some incredibly wealthy towns, and I have some towns with people who are making six figures and barely getting by because they're teachers, they're police officers, they're DPW workers, they're small business owners who moved into a house that's a 50 by 75-foot lot, 1,100 square foot home, and through no fault of their own, as they're doing everything they're supposed to do, are getting hit with $13,000, $14,000 a year in property taxes because all of our money goes elsewhere in the state and we don't get any of it back. And so now we're being told, okay, in the most densely populated state in the country, where we have the largest outmigration, where we have no population growth, that we're going to double down on bad policy and force overdevelopment in the already most crowded communities to the tune of, in some instances, adding 20, 30% additional housing without any regard to infrastructure or ability to handle it.
Listening to Holly Schepisi, this is Steve Adubato, this is Think Tank talking public policy on a very substantive level. Millionaires tax.
Yes.
Good idea?
No.
Don't we need the revenue?
We need a ton of revenue, but we have a spending problem. Millionaires tax right now, I think it's about 3% of the people in the state of New Jersey pay 40% of the taxes. We have already seen a huge outmigration of millionaires in Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. Democratic Governor Cuomo in New York, Democratic Governor Connecticut are saying, whoa, this is causing significant issues. We're losing our income tax revenue. We have to stop taxing people out of the state.
What does Governor Murphy not understand about that, in your opinion?
I think he's so wealthy that he doesn't get it.
Come on.
I do.
He doesn't want to lose New Jersey and to other states and lose that revenue.
I honestly and truly don't think he cares because he's a true believer. He really is. And he views it as, and it's not just millionaires. What people don't understand is this impacts every small business owner in the state who has an LLC, an S Corp, a partnership. It would impact them as well. We already have the highest tax rate out of any surrounding state for people in those categories. We have the millionaires tax already. What we're doing is now making it so it's, I think, the number 2 highest tax in the entire country at a time where we are losing people. Let's tighten our belt. Let's stop doing pet projects. We're doing the equivalent of you can't afford your mortgage. You are going to lose your house, but yet you believe that your neighbors should deserve to watch Hulu, and so you take out an advance on your credit card to pay for their Hulu account. That's what we're doing in New Jersey.
We've got a few seconds left with Assemblywoman Schepisi. You're an optimistic person. You've dealt with some really tough issues. You had a brain aneurysm in May of 2015. How did that change your view of public life in a few seconds?
It's very freeing. Being in public life right now is really tough. You have to have alligator thick skin. The public is angry. Social media has broken our world. Having almost died, having lived through some of the experiences I've lived through, one, it gives me empathy. Two, it's given me incredibly thick skin. And you no longer care that somebody's being mean to you while sitting in their basement typing up stuff in their undies.
Well said. Thank you, Assemblywoman Holly Schepisi, to being with us on Think Tank. That is it for this edition. For everyone at Think Tank, I'm Steve Adubato. Thank you so much for watching, but most importantly, make sure that you think for yourself. See you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., New Jersey Sharing Network, the Turrell Fund, supporting right from the start NJ, Choose New Jersey, the New Jersey Education Association, NJIT, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey.